So sorry about that. How's everyone doing?
Good.
Good.
All right. So thinking about persuasion, we use persuasion all the time. We just don't think through the little details of it. And any project that you take on, you've probably had to persuade somebody. So I'm hoping that you have a lot of valuable ideas on how you were able to persuade people. What was it that maybe you needed to say to them that made them more willing to follow? Um, let's see, I've got, who's in our group here? Anyone want to get started? We've got Rebecca. Where are you, Rebecca?
So I'm in New York State. I work for the New York State Caregiving and Respite Coalition.
Okay.
I guess the one idea that came to mind was sort of being mindful of people's time. If you're going to have present an argument one way or the other for something, or try and persuade someone, I like to give them a sense of how much time I'll need.
Yeah, to fit it in amongst the other things that they're maybe involved in doing. And yeah, I think that's a great idea. Perfect. Anyone else? Let's see, Kath, Barb, your picture popped up. Did you have an idea?
Me. I'm still thinking about it. I use persuasion all the time and specific instances of it. I like what you said, Rebecca, about, giving people some concrete ideas as to what they're going to need. I'm not sure. I'm finding this topic a little wide for some reason.
Okay.
I'll go.
All
This
right.
is Dana. This is Dana from Washington, and I
Yeah.
like to try to tell them pretty early on how it's going to benefit them as well as our organization,
Mhm.
what it will do
Yeah.
for them and why yeah.
It's personally, right? So that
Well,
they
or
can
if it's an
relate.
organization, like for example, for Lifetime Respite, we wanted to do a project with our walk hairs, which is our new state long-term care project and program. And we want to, for our Lifetime Respite grant, we want to work with them to offer like some help to unpaid family caregivers who are going to be making decisions for the beneficiaries who can't because they, are late stage dementia. So I said, and I offered them something that we already have, Trualta, and said, this will benefit you because it's a goodwill to family caregivers and people out there, a free service that they can use before we start doling out benefits to people. So yeah, it was obvious to them that that was a benefit for them. So they
Yeah.
agreed to go in with us to do a project and to
Have
join
you,
our coalition.
having to try to convince family caregivers using respite can require maybe some persuasion because you've got to help them get through all the hurdles that sometimes comes with.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
And
Yes.
probably many of you have even presented or spoken to state boards or commissions, the legislature, to persuade them on legislative issues, right? So, who else would like to share?
This is Kathy in South Carolina, and I would echo what Dana said. A good example recently, we've been trying to engage our Medicaid agency or re-engage our Medicaid agency in our lifespan respite activities. And there have been so many changes in our state personnel of late. And so I've been around a long time, and there was a time when I probably had more influence, but I think some of the time, so what we did is we did come up with bullet points of what what was in it for Medicaid, how it benefited, how it helped them move their own initiatives forward. And so
Mhm.
I was able to provide that, but we needed to find a better person than me, so we actually had the director of the Department on Aging talk to the director at Medicaid, because there was a trust level there and there was more influence.
Mhm.
And I think the same thing sometimes with caregivers is really finding people from within that community, who can express and relate and already kind of have that trust. So, I mean, like Barbara, everything we do is persuasion at some level. But
Yes.
sometimes I think it's also looking to find the best person who may have a better opportunity of making the argument, and selling it, in a
Yeah.
way, because they're already either at the same level, they're already a trusted, person. And so we've been thinking more about that, of late, in really trying to build our case and sell these things.
Yeah, that partner that you're developing, you're persuading them to champion the cause
Right.
and use their position and their authority, right,
Exactly.
to move things forward. Absolutely, that's critical. Okay, let's see. Um, be strong. Where are you, bud?
I'm from the Nebraska State Unit on Aging.
Mhm.
Nebraska. Wonderful.
Um, so I'm not with the Lifespan Respite Network program. But I do coordinate some of the 3E caregiver services with the State Unit on Aging and Nebraska's area agencies on aging.
Uh,
And uh, I do work like alongside the Lifespan Respite Network program here in Nebraska sometimes. Oh, I'm sorry, my name is Ben.
mhm. Then, okay, wonderful. Well, has Nebraska selected like a priority from the national strategy recommendations that you're aware of?
So I was going to say, to be honest, I'm not sure about that.
Mhm. All right. Let's see, who else is in our group? Is Kara?
Yep, Kara Ortega. I'm from New Mexico. We
Oh,
have not
wonderful.
selected, or I have not selected a national strategy to pursue just yet. I mean, we have been so slammed with trying to get the grant off the ground and as far as launched. So we're new states, a new states grant. But yes, persuasion definitely at the legislative side. I agree with Kathy in her comments with what she had to say as far as looking at people in positions and really just kind of like leveraging that kind of help.
Mhm.
Actually, we were able to engage our human services department and get a representative on board to help us. Actually, one of our strategies is going to be looking at Medicaid funded caregiver registry. And we were one of the states that was selected to attend NASHB. So that was all good as far as putting together a team, because the other thing that we're doing in New Mexico, we've kind of like delayed some of our launch of our lifespan respite grant, but we've got a solid sustainability plan. So that we kind of like worked on it a little bit backwards. Yeah, so it's like most grants, just start running and stuff, and then you're like, oh my God, how are we going to sustain? Well, we kind of approached it from the different aspect because we were, we really believed in it. So New Mexico, the lifespan respite grant here is really going to be embedded in the New Mexicare grant, and so that's a caregiver health model. And so that's funded by our state general fund. So we've already got that secured. And so we're looking at doing that. But yeah, the thing that I'm looking at as far as respite services and caregiver needs to have a registry. New Mexico Caregiver Coalition just launched their registry that we've been assisting them with, but also what we want to do, and that's just caregiver respite registry. So we want to do a caregiver registry, and that's what we selected to do with NASHB to try start working on that. And we're going to need a lot of persuasion, because if you don't have buy-in from the upper echelons of state government, ain't gonna fly.
It isn't going to go anywhere. And you probably had to use persuasion even in presenting an approach or a plan, a solution for New Mexico to do the registry, to justify those those kind of
Well,
positions. So
you know, and I think everyone within our agency, and I think in human services and Medicaid, they understand that there's a caregiver shortage. And how are we reaching people, because we're so rural and frontier, that how do you reach people? How do you connect people? And so that's not, doesn't seem to me like to be such a hard sell. It's just all the mechanics of making it all happen. And where is it going to reside with what agency? And I'm willing to say that, you know, we want it to reside with our agency because we have the ADRC, and people are always calling us, because if it resides in human services or if it resides in Department of Health, for sure it's going to get lost.
okay, there's an argument right there. Why are
Yeah,
we,
yeah.
why are
Why do
we,
we want to house it where we are? Well,
yeah, there's a
we got to
position, you've
fill.
taken a position, right?
Yes,
And
ma'am.
we're doing that all the time. We're just not thinking about it as we're doing our work. And so you guys probably have also encountered those that have oppositional views on how to move forward. So it's not like it is always smooth sailing, right? You've either got to get them to sway over, or you've got to respect, you know, some opposing views and be able to be prepared to defend a position in that kind of environment. So has anyone felt like they landed themselves in that kind of a situation where they were having to
So, yeah, again,
build a
I have.
defense?
Yeah, I have, because we had well, I wrote the lifespan respite grant for New Mexico, and then we had our buy-in from our existing secretary and upper management within our agency. And then what ended up happening was our cabinet secretary was not confirmed, and she ended up retiring, and so we got a new cabinet secretary. And so the current cabinet secretary doesn't have the same kind of agenda that our last one did, or buy-in. I mean, she's getting there, but it's been in working on the launch of our grant, I've had to just, well, we want to do this, or we want to do this, and take this off in another state. Well, that's all fun and good. I said, but that's not what we wrote in the grant. So have to make sure that they stay in those lines, stay in the right lanes. I said, you know, ACL is forgiving. We can color over here, and we have to, you know, just let them know what they're doing. And if they agree with it, that's fine. I said, but we can't go off like the exit ramp and just kind of go into another area that we did not get funded for. So
Often we do that. I've seen organizations that have gone off the track because they're chasing money typically, or they're chasing an opportunity. And so they're not sticking to their mission. They're not sticking to their vision even. They've gone off track. And so that is a real challenge. And sometimes it is to persuade people to come back to what you came together for. I mean, I don't know if you've ever had to call a meeting and try to bring players to the table. You're there to persuade them to, you know, join your side, right? You know, so that we as a combined group can actually move forward on some objective. And so we're dealing with those kind of situations where they're at different levels, and people have different opinions, and we're trying to say, okay, where are you coming from? Because other states are like, well, we're not going to do a registry because that causes, you know, all kinds of problems, right? So even to convince somebody to take a course of action really requires sometimes bringing and persuading the different parties in, and you're addressing it from their perspective. How is this going to benefit them personally? How are they going to um, uh, you know, really be convinced of the need to move forward on sometimes some things, because it's always been working fine, right? So why do we need to change it? You've got to convince me that we need to change something, right? So I think persuasion comes in a lot more than we recognize. Anyone else have been dealing with kind of a more difficult conversation?
with our coalitions, and I don't want to like dominate this conversation in this breakout session, but there seems to be like a lot more coalitions that like are doing a lot more things, and I'm going like, what's our coalition? I thought, you know, no coalition is created equal, but it's really been hard and a challenge to get traction in a lot of areas from our coalition. Like, oh yeah, we want to do this, we would lifespan and this and this and this and this, and then when it actually comes down to it, like, oh no, we'd rather not be involved in that. Oh no, we don't want to do this, and you're like, okay. So, you know, that's kind of has been a challenge as well.
Often it is a leadership issue. Who is the leader of that group and where are they going?
Mhm.
We have groups yeah, and I can certainly speak to that in our state, that because of a good leader that has a direction, then it's a very vibrant organization, and then leadership changes and people move and take different positions or are no longer engaged for whatever reason. And then you don't have they could be a group of people in a coalition that have no clue as to why they're getting together. They need that they could be persuaded to maybe take a goal or objective, and then other times they have their own agenda, and you've got to understand where their agenda is taking them and how to maybe persuade them to say, here, we've got money, resources, time, effort going towards this one endeavor. Do you not see value in it? Because if they're going to fight you, at some point at the legislature or something, you want to know what their objections are, right? So you want to be able to defend against that. But it is kind of hard when they're not working in tandem, and working alongside, and there's where persuasion sometimes is really needed, going and having that conversation, realizing they're an important partner, but you need to bring them to your side. So anyone else? We've only got just a couple more minutes before our breakout. We'll go back to the main group. Does anyone kind of want to report out? Maybe Kara, you had such great ideas. You'd
Oh.
be willing to report out.
You know what? I got kicked out of this meeting and they're testing the generators here. And so I'm on like a battery power and my hotspot because they kicked off the power.
Okay.
So
All
I
right.
don't want to get cut off and
Any
It's
last thoughts?
experience.
Anyone else have?
I thought you were gonna do
Barb,
it.
did you have any thoughts then?
You're
You're
on
mu-
mute.
Yes, I was muted. I was just thinking that overall
We go.
with our coalition, and Dana may have some memory of this because Dana and I are both part of the Lifespan Washington team. She's over at the state, we're the contractor. And it was like the minute that the national strategy dropped, I started to advocate for the coalition in our state to pick it up, and did this whole PowerPoint and everything. And it ended up being more informative than persuasive, but it was like laying the groundwork. You cannot persuade people unless, they have to know the context. And so that's what springs to mind after a little more, that laying the context out for what you're trying to ask people to do is so important, because if they don't understand, like other people have said, what's in it for them, why they should even care.
Right.
But to do that, it's like, so what is it we're talking about? There are just like so many incremental steps to persuasion. So my thoughts.
Perfect. All right. All right. It looks like it's going to send us back here in just a couple of seconds to our main group. I appreciate your participation, everyone.
Did you hear all that rebooting stuff going on? Like all the bells and whistles and printers start? That was me. So I'm like there.
Oh, okay.